I'm going to go through this case again because they're not defining their terms, these doctors. They are submitting evidence to a court of law which is entirely disingenuous. When you ask them to define their terms in order to have a valid scientific hypothesis, they give you a general category. They cannot give you a more specific definition. They cannot give you historical literature to establish what it is they say they know that you don't. This is the most malicious kind of medical malpractice imaginable. They know they are causing the disease. They know they are fighting their own patients. They know that it's a deranged form of criminal justice that should be obviously given to a criminal court. They know that the doctor is fighting his own patient. They know that the doctor is afraid of people with schizophrenia, that they don't understand schizophrenia, and I'm going to tell you what is actually going on. Schizophrenia is a disease caused by schismatic thinking. Schismatic thinking is not a disease. Schismatic thinking is mental retardation. Schismatic thinking is pure idiocy. It is the statistical link, right? When you make the basic error that they teach you in Statistics 101, statistical correlation is not causation. If you make that link a million times, what you are doing is called schismatic thinking. You're being cryptic. It's to make the same error, correlation equals causation, again and again and again and again, makes what you're saying into a cryptic kind of fiction, right? It's a deliberate error, and it's called schismatic thinking. Occult medical practices, secretive crypto signifiers in your medical literature. They're associating psychosis with schizophrenia. Schizophrenia and psychosis are direct opposites. Schizophrenia is a neurosis entirely caused by an historical signal in a piece of media. It means a break with your media systems, right? That means you think you have bad media and you're being paranoid by your own media. Psychosis means a physical poison. A neurosis caused by a physical poison is referred to by a neurologist as psychosis, meaning it is in the nexus of neurology and psychiatry, right? Psychosis. A psychiatrist would never use a word like psychosis because it sounds like he just said general psycho stuff, right? Psychosis is a neurologist word for a psychiatric complication, right? So you're talking about a physical poison. These are direct opposites, right? And yet they equate them by a statistical link. Why? Because they get drug addicts in there who are pretending to have schizophrenia. Pretending to have schizophrenia is one form of schismatic thinking. It's a form of schismatic thinking because the schismatic and the schizophrenic are found next to each other. The schizoaffective, schizoid, fake schizophrenic, egotistical, multiple personality, fake schizophrenic is found next to, physically, geographically next to the schizophrenic person with the physical neurosis presenting with the symptom of schizophrenia indicative of its cause. So to associate these two things is simply to geographically locate them in a schismatic manner, an occult manner of thinking, right? Which is in self causing the schizophrenia. Can you imagine something more idiotic, right? You're talking about the most abysmal kind of ideological mental retardation in the world, right? And these are malicious forms of medical malpractice. They know they're fighting their own patients. But they take the fake schizophrenia of another sect. These are various forms of sectarian absolutism, various ideologies trying to monopolize, trying to take over the campus, university campus using violence, trying to privatize the university campus. They take those forms of sectarian extremism for a disease and they tell a court of law that they're able to cure a terrorist with a disease called being schismatic, idiotic, mentally retarded, right? And they are attempting to cure a terrorist, absolving a terrorist of his crimes, all while attacking a person with a real physical neurosis caused by the doctors themselves and they're in a desire not to give away their literature, which establishes the consent of the patient, which establishes that they are practicing medicine legally, right? You can see that this is a criminal behavior on the part of the doctors. They are simply aggregating statistical links within the literature. They have no idea why there is even this literature in the university. The literature is in the university archive to establish in a philosophical, theoretical terminology, legal terminology, the consent of a patient for any kind of medical procedure. But they're using it, they're selling it to their bachelor's students in marketing, and they're using it to make random statistical linkages of which they do not understand the causation. It is simply statistically linked in the literature, and the pattern of a truth is the pattern of a lie. So what they're finding, the statistical link in the literature, is also the ideology of the terrorists, which they are collaborating with, who they are aiding and comforting. And they're demonizing the schizophrenics because we are recognizing the obvious ideological pattern of the statistical, purely statistical link between two things that are found in the same place but are opposites. A policeman and a crime are found in the same place. A doctor and a disease are found in the same place. But you don't say that they're associated just because they're statistically linked, right? But this is the magical sorcery, the mystery occult science of associating things that are linked in the literature, right? Well, schizophrenia is associated with occult associations, linkages in statistical terms between terms in the literature. That is what it is caused by. This is called schismatic thinking, and it is the cause of schizophrenia, and you will find it where schizophrenics are, right? And it will even imitate a schizophrenic because they know that they are found where schizophrenics are, and they will call themselves schizophrenic, and they will pretend to be schizophrenic, right? And they will imitate our manner of speaking, right? And it sounds like pure madness, and it doesn't fool us because we know the culture of our community of neurotic people, and we know how we talk, and we recognize in our language, and it doesn't sound like schizophrenia to us, but for someone who doesn't employ the literary present a lot, and use our kind of language of reference that we employ as a culture, as a community of medical patients, you might not understand that this is a fake schizophrenic, but this is a schismatic who is associating things that are found in the same place, right? And he's associating himself with schizophrenia because he is the cause of schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is caused by making statistical linkages in an occult aggregated form of science where your terms are not defined, right? A pseudoscientific practice, which is recognizable, becomes recognizable for its pattern and can cause a neurosis when you see a doctor doing it because it is indicative of malpractice, because it discredits the entire medical establishment and the entire regulatory establishment of the regime and the government. That's why it's such a classic disease. That's why it's indicative of a radical political opposition. That is why criminals pretend to be schizophrenic, because they want to pretend that they have a radical political opposition to the government. So as you can see, this is the most abysmal kind of idiocy in the practice of medicine, right? If somebody's just being an idiot out there in the world, it doesn't matter. But this is like flying an airplane drunk. This is the most abysmal kind of mental retardation and ideological, egotistical idiocy in the world, right? They are not defining their terms even enough to present it to a court of law. They can't. They give you a general category when you ask them for a definition. Again, schizophrenia and psychosis are directly opposite. Schizophrenia is a neurosis entirely caused by an historical signal in your literature, in your media, and psychosis means a neurological problem with a psychiatric complication. That means something caused by a physical poison. These are direct opposites, but they don't define their terms. They don't have to provide historical case literature. They don't have to provide evidence because the ideology of the regime follows the same absolutist sectarian socialism, the same religious sectarian absolutist socialism that they ascribe to takes over the government in certain towns and certain states as a faction because they control the media, because they monopolize the university and they control the registration function, right? This is sectarian absolutist. This is the same origin as totalitarianism, slavery, the absolutist monarchisms in the time of the religious war, And this is the privatization of the university, defending its neo-colonial, neo-feudalistic social relations. This is a reactionary form of socialism that is an ideological form of suppression of information and occult, schismatic, secretive practices in medicine.